This is the third video in a series about sweater styles and how they're constructed. In this week's Technique Tuesday video, I'll explain what defines the basic shape of a modified drop shoulder sweater and various options for constructing a sweater like this. You'll learn how it differs from a regular drop shoulder sweater and why a modified drop shoulder sweater can provide a better fit. If you'd like to jump right to a specific point in the video, tap or mouse over the video playback area of your screen and use the chapter titles to guide you to the starting point of the desired section. Use the gear icon to slow down or speed up playback. What defines a sweater style is not whether it has to be seamed or is knit seamlessly, and it's not whether it's knit bottom up or top down. What defines a sweater style is how the sleeves and the body come together and how the shaping is managed between the underarms and the neck. Any sweater style can be knit bottom up or top down. Any sweater style can be knit seamlessly or have seams. All of that is independent of the sweater style itself. With the standard drop shoulder sweater, we saw how we could start with a very basic shape of two rectangles that were attached together at the sides up to the armholes and then attached at the shoulders. And then we saw that you could add shaping to create a neck and add sleeves to create an actual sweater. So you still had the rectangular, completely rectangular body and the very simply shaped sleeve. The modified drop shoulder sweater makes a few adjustments to this original shape. What happens with this shape is that once you get to the underarms, if you're working bottom up, you would bind off some stitches. If you're working top down, you would cast on some stitches. But there's a difference in width between the lower body and then the body that is between the underarm and the shoulders. And it's a very simple shape. Again, you're just basically taking out a rectangular shape of fabric. So these lines more or less line up with where your shoulder is. So you get that vertical seam line right there. By taking out some of the body space, you add it back in to the top of the sleeve. So you can see on this pencil line right here where the original shape of a drop shoulder sweater would be, and by indenting the sides here, you need to add length to the sleeve so that the total distance from wrist down to wrist is going to be exactly the same. Just like with a drop shoulder sweater, you can create a neckline of some sort, V-neck or scoop neck. One thing that tends to be different with modified drop shoulder sweaters is that there is an addition of shoulder shaping. If you look at the way the human body is actually shaped, we tend to have a slope to our shoulders. So the top of our shoulders here is actually lower than the base of our neck. By adding some shoulder shaping right here, the sweater begins to conform more to our actual body shape. With a drop shoulder sweater, if we wanted the length of the sweater from the hem up to the back of our neck, if we wanted that to be a certain length, let's say we wanted it to be 23 inches in length, then we would just knit this rectangle until it was 23 inches in length. When we work a modified drop shoulder sweater, if we want the length of the sweater from the bottom of the hem to the back of the neck to be 23 inches in length, then we are getting some length out of the top of these shoulders here. And so the length of the sweater from here down is going to be shorter than it is from here down in order to accommodate that right there. So that will mean that the distance between the bottom of the hem and where the underarm begins is going to be a little bit shorter because the length of the sweater is just going to be distributed a little bit differently. One of the issues that you have with a drop shoulder and modified drop shoulder sweater is that the sleeves are coming perpendicular out from the body, and the sleeve, the angle of the sleeve seam is coming up like this. But we don't wear our clothes like that. The sleeve is actually going to be hanging down like this when you're wearing it, so that can cause fabric to bunch up under here. The addition of this shaped shoulder will help reduce some of that bulk underneath the arms. But there is one other thing that you can do that can work really well for a modified drop shoulder sweater in order to reduce that angle that you have here. And that is to put the sleeve shaping at the top of the sleeve. And that way the sleeve is coming out at a 90-degree angle at the underarm rather than at the top of the sleeve. So you have the angle of the shoulder, and then you have the continued angle of the sleeve going down to the wrist. So how would something like this work? This is a 1/4 scale modified drop shoulder sweater. It's not complete. This half of the sweater over here is complete, but I haven't put a sleeve in here, and I haven't done the button bands here. But you can see that I have that sort of rectangular opening right here, and you can see how that sleeve fits in right there. And you can see how it comes completely out. So when this arm is down at the sides, you're going to get some bunching under the arm. So for this sleeve, I started it out just like this one, straight across, but I created this little panel in the center, and on either side of it, I did decreases periodically down next to that purl column, rather than doing them along the edge of the seam here. So this can be done in the round as well, but I just wanted to give an example of it knit flat. So you can see that because the decreases are in the center here, it also kind of changes the way that the sleeve is shaped at the top. It becomes more of a curved shape. So let's see what happens when we fold it and stick it inside that armhole. What you can see is that it comes down in a little bit more natural shape than the one that comes straight out from the body. So this is an additional way that you can get a little bit better fit with a modified drop shoulder sweater. It's still a casual fit. It's not meant to be a really tailored type of sweater, but you can get a better fit with the shaped shoulders, as well as changing the placement of your shaping on your sleeves so that they're at the top rather than along the seam line. The modified drop shoulder sweater has a couple of advantages, particularly over the standard drop shoulder. One is you do get a little bit better fit from reducing the bulk underneath the underarms. And it has that same advantage that a standard drop shoulder has, which is that you can knit the body until it's the right length, and then knit the armhole until it's the right length. That you just keep going until it's long enough. So if your row gauge is different than what the pattern says, often it's not an issue because you're just knitting to the lengths that you need. This sweater was designed to be knit top down with a seamless construction. And the way that that was done for the modified drop was that you started at the shoulders with the saddles, then you knit down the front and the back each flat until you get to the underarms. And the intent of the designer was then that you could then, if you were knitting a pullover, join in the round and knit the entire body down to the hem in the round. If you were knitting a cardigan, once you got below the armholes, you'd be knitting all in one piece with no side seams with the opening up the front. Then to work the sleeves, you pick up stitches around the armhole and you work back and forth flat until you have passed this horizontal span at the underarm. And once you are past that, then you can begin your decreases. And again, the designer's intent was for the sleeves to be knit in the round. So you have one tiny seam at the end, and that is to seam the vertical edge of the sleeve right here with this horizontal edge of the underarm right there. So it's a very small amount of seaming, maybe a couple of inches. So that was the intent, was for the sweater to be knit completely seamlessly. I have a preference for knitting cables flat because I like the wrong side rows are just knit my knits and purl my purls. I don't have to think about whether or not it's a crossing row. So my preference is to knit cable patterns flat. So when I got to the underarm, I continued the front flat, and I did the same with the back, and then I seamed them up the side. And then with the sleeve, once I got past this part right here, I did not join in the round. I just continued knitting flat and doing my shaping near the seam line. This sweater has a lot of similarities to the other one that I just showed you, but for this one, I knit the front and the back from the bottom up, and then I knit the sleeves from the top down. So again, this was knit in one piece, but I still had seams at the underarm and at the side right there. And you can see, again, you can see this kind of rectangular shape right here that identifies this as a modified drop shoulder. So for my little quarter scale cardigan, I knit the body in one piece. There's no seams at the side, but I did have to knit it back and forth because it's open up the front. And for this sleeve, I picked up stitches along here, and once I got past that horizontal span, I joined in the round and I knit in the round. So there are no seams in what I've knit here so far at all, and I used a hybrid, again, of directionality for knitting it. One of my goals for this series is to not only help knitters understand what it is that defines a sweater style, but to also understand that every sweater style can be knit seamlessly or seamed, and every sweater style can be knit in any direction. If you missed the first two videos in this series, there's a link to the playlist over here. Between each video, I'm creating videos that answer the most frequently asked sweater questions, such as how you can turn a pattern for a pullover into one for a cardigan. If you have sweater questions you'd like to see answered in a video, you can leave those down in the comments below. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.